What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It has been a long time since I have made a video, but even though I stopped making videos, I have not stopped investing, and today I just want to give an update on my portfolio, where my account is at, talk about some of the stocks that I own, why I own them, and go over a new position that I added into the account recently. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name's Sheldon. I've been investing for a little bit over 6 years now. This is my account. You know, I have about $130,000 invested in the market. These are all of the stocks that I own. So if you just want to pause the video and look at look at my account, there you go. I am not claiming to be some type of expert when it comes to investing. I just like to make transparent videos talking about how I invest and show the results that I've got along the way. With that being said, I don't want to waste your time. Let's hop right into it. Obviously, like I said, I have about 130,000 Canadian dollars invested in the market. Most of it's in US equities though. And yeah, it's been a crazy year so far in the market, right? So one thing that I kind of want to start the video by showing, and it's something new that Questrade kind of implemented, the new feature, but they have this total profit and loss feature now. And guys, I think this outlines why you have to be a long-term investor in the market. You have to stay, like if you get in, you're in now, right? Like you cannot jump in and out of the market. You have to implement a strategy and follow that strategy for the long term. Because if I click like since the beginning of my portfolio, right? Like I went up a little bit in the beginning. I was feeling high. I was feeling high on life when I was up $4,000 in my account back in 2021. But then I went down. I was down like $7,500. And I was down in the account all the way until around, call it October 31st, 2023. I started investing at the beginning of 2020. Okay, so this entire time, I was over 3 years in, and I didn't make any money. There was no returns to be made in the market, right? But I stuck to the plan. And I didn't sell out when there was lots of volatility in the market, right? In the last 5 years, we've gone through some very interesting times in the stock market, right? And I never sold, and I continued to add to the account, contribute to the account, not sell those positions. And then in the last few years, guys, it just absolutely took off, right? And I went up from down, $2,600 to up over 60 in just a few years after I've been investing for a lot longer than that, right? And now it's kind of leveled off. There's been lots of volatility in the market, which I want to talk about a little bit. But I just wanted to show this at the beginning to outline, like, just trust the process and be a long-term investor, and your portfolio will grow. But stay invested in the market. Do not get in and out. Do not day trade. Just stay invested. So that's one thing I wanted to show. A total net deposits in my account now are around 73,500. I've really continued to, especially in the last like 3 months, with all the volatility going on in the market, I've added over 62,000 and then 73. So I've contributed over $10,000 into my account in the last 3 months while all this volatility has been going on. It's a really good time to get into the market when it's really crazy like that. So yeah, I mean, let's talk about where the market's been at. So let's look at the VIX. And obviously there's been lots of volatility, right? Like since the beginning of the year, like it started out relatively chill, but then obviously there was an entire war that started happening, and hopefully it continues to chill out a little bit. And as that kind of calms down, money starts to flood back into the market from big institutional investors that really, are the ones in charge of moving the market. Like us little retail guys, we do not move the market by even contributing, tens of thousands. That's not the type of money that moves the market, right? So as there's a little bit less volatility in terms of geopolitical tensions, Wall Street kind of sees that, and they're more comfortable putting their money back in the market, right? And so the volatility drops, and as volatility comes back down, that's typically good for equities. and the market has started to rebound lately. We're still not back at all-time highs, but we're slowly getting there. And if we look at the fear and greed index, like we used to be, like even a week ago, we were in extreme fear. A month ago, we were in extreme fear. And it looks like, we've been in, looks like we've been in extreme fear for a long time, because a year ago we were also in extreme fear. But if you've been watching the market, between this year and this month, the market was pretty chill. It's pretty good. And there's been gains to be had in the last year, depending where you're invested, right? So now we're back down to, it's still a fearful time in the market, but which is also means it's a great time to get invested and continue to stay consistent with your strategy, and just don't sell out on quality positions. But that's a little bit where we're at. It's still a volatile time. It's come down a little bit, and who knows, right? Like it could go back to being crazy volatile, right? Like the war could just ramp back up again. Something else could fucking pop off. Like who knows what's going to happen. But as long as you have your strategy, stick to the plan. So that's kind of where the market's at. And so to talk about a few positions individually, like AMD has been an absolute beast for me in the last year. I made a video on AMD, I think, in March last year, right? And if we look at the last 5 years, guys, I started, what's my cost basis actually on AMD? So 124 is my average price. So I didn't get in directly at the bottom, but I started buying while it was crashing around here. And I made a video, and AMD, what was AMD trading at in this video? I made this video about a year ago. It was at $100, okay? And this is when I was really high conviction on AMD, and basically I outlined my entire hypothesis for the stock in this video. And guys, it's been beasting lately, right? AMD has been an awesome stock. It's almost back at all-time highs. The hypothesis essentially was there's room in the market for more than just NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA is obviously the clear winner. And some people made some insane amounts of money on NVIDIA, but AMD was, there was room in the market for another player. And as these big tech companies like Facebook and Google and, all of these massive hyperscalers and data centers, as they're implementing or as they're investing, and as their CapEx has gone fucking insane in the last, 2 years, right? If you're paying attention to if you're a nerd and you pay attention to the capital expenditures of these massive tech companies, then you would know that there is a lot of money getting invested into these companies, right? And where is it going? It's going to AMD. It's going to NVIDIA. It's going to the hardware that is getting implemented into these data centers. And AMD ultimately is a data center play. They have other things, they have consumer focused, computer gaming and things like that, and some other segments. But the big segment that is the bet for AMD is the data center play, right? And you have seen that start to play out. And if we look at, call it the last couple quarters of revenue, they've had some banging quarters, right? 35, 31, 35, 34, that low 30s to mid 30s revenue growth rate quarter over quarter for a tech company is what you expect. And those are the types of returns that I'm expecting in AMD. Not to say that it won't level out as the years go on, but I think it's going to continue to grow. And, it's still only, I say only, it's a $400 billion market cap company, but NVIDIA is still a multiple $1 trillion company, right? So there's lots of room for AMD to continue to grow. And glad that I never sold out. I stuck to the plan. Let's look at it over it dropped from 260 to, that's actually an insane drop, a $60 per share drop in early February. But it's, those are those short-term price movements, guys. You can't put too much thought into them, right? It's volatility. It's going to be a wild ride if you're investing in individual stocks. That's part of the game. And that's also why, personally, I have some stability plays like VOO and Costco and Even VFV is starting to be a bit of a bigger position. Like you need to be diversified, and you got to have some rocks and some anchors in your portfolio. Like, personally, I like VOO. Like, you can choose any market tracking ETF you want, but that's the one I've decided to go with, right? So that's AMD. And I don't want to go too in depth into stocks in this, like individual stocks in this video. It's kind of just a general update as to where I've been, where my portfolio is at, and to tell you guys, like, if my channel's not completely dead, that I want to start making content again slowly, and maybe we can even make some more interesting content as to like where I've been, what I've been doing to really increase my income in the last little bit, which I've been working a sort of tech sales job, I guess you could say. And that's how I've been able to implement or contribute a lot of money recently into the account. So we got Costco, Google. I haven't touched Google at all recently, I don't think. Never going to sell my Google shares. Like, Google is an absolute beast, right? Like, and if you want to look at blowing CapEx through the roof, like, look at Google, look at Meta. Like, those are the two companies that are fueling the AMD, rise in a lot of their revenue. Caterpillar is, let's talk about Caterpillar for a second, because this thing has gone insane. Like, I did not expect the type of returns for Caterpillar, but if you look at Caterpillar in the last year, it went from under a $300 stock. Okay, it was like, it hit a low of like 288 or around there, and then it just went insane. It went it's almost an $800 stock now for a heavy duty equipment manufacturing company. That's a tech stock move, right? Like, that's what you would expect out of some tech stocks. I didn't expect that out of Caterpillar. Obviously, I'll take it, and I'm glad that I added it into my portfolio. The reason I originally bought it was I wanted some exposure into a different type of industry, like heavy duty, manufacturing. I was a little bit worried when there was like a lot of tariff talk going on, because I know Caterpillar equipment, as it's getting manufactured, it kind of crosses the border a lot. Like, I'm from northern Alberta in Canada, and like there's lots of Caterpillar equipment up here on the oil rigs, right? So it's like it moves around a lot. So that was one concern that I did have with Caterpillar, but it seems to have, the interest in the business model has been strong enough that it's been resilient to a lot of that tariff talk. And I know that there was a lot of backlogged orders, and I believe there was a lot of negative revenue growth quarterly for a long time, like over a year worth of negative revenue growth. And then in the last 2 quarters, we've got back to like almost, around a 10%, 18% in Q4 of 2025. So that's really, fueled the stock to go just insane over the last little while. So that's Caterpillar. Glad that's been in my portfolio. I never expected it to be, such a big position, honestly, but it's just kind of grown into that. I'm going to let it run. I'm not going to sell it, which is one thing that I've kind of learned, is to like let the stocks run as they're running, that's one thing. That's how I learned it with Palantir, right? MDA, that's a space stock in Canada that's also had like a really good run lately. It's gone from $15 to $42 a share, and I haven't owned it too long. I think I've only owned it like maybe 2 years, and so to have 178% return, like that's pretty good. Palantir, I have sold a lot of my Palantir position over the last few months. Like, it's not even one of the biggest positions in my account anymore. Obviously it's gone down a lot. Like, it's still a $1,500 or a 1,500% mover in the account, but I'm down to like 30 shares. I've sold out most of my position. I'm going to hold the rest of Palantir. But that's kind of where Palantir is at in my portfolio, which is okay. Like, I was kind of comfortable bringing, because I have a pretty tech heavy portfolio, so bringing down like a very volatile stock that was a big percentage of my portfolio, so to kind of chip away at that as it grew in value, and then add that money back into some more stable stocks is like, kind of how I'm maintaining a more stable portfolio as it's really grown and got bigger. Oh, my shares journaled, so I can sell these now. So one thing I do, this is really not relevant, but I journal shares and it's one way to move like CAD into USD or USD into CAD. So you can just ignore that. CRM. This is the new stock that I have recently started to add into my account, and it's down 14%, so I can happily buy some more CRM soon. I want to make this a bit of a bigger position for sure. So why am I buying Salesforce? Ultimately, like, first of all, a 21 PE ratio on a massive tech company is like, some of the valuations we've been trading at lately is just insane. Like, it was kind of between Salesforce and Adobe, but ultimately I ended up going with Salesforce. I think the moat, personally, I could be wrong, right? Maybe Adobe outperforms Salesforce in the next couple of years. I don't know. But I think the moat of CRM is like a little bit stronger, and they are positioned to be the agentic AI beast in the corporate world, right? If you look in the corporate world right now, everybody's talking about agentic AI and, how it's going to be life-changing to all these companies, and maybe it will be, right? But I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of hype behind agentic AI, and CRM, Salesforce, is positioned to be a very core player when it comes to enterprise agentic AI and really personalized insights as to, financial modeling and your customer base and even your sales process and everything like that wrapped up into one brain for your organization. Like, Salesforce is positioned to be that. And so I think, like, even though there's Claude and OpenAI and all these different models that are getting released, like, it's really hard for those to replace something like a Salesforce, because if you guys have ever worked in the tech company or worked a customer facing role, like, that your CRM is like very important, and moving away from your CRM is like not going to happen anytime soon. That would take a lot to get away from that. And Salesforce is one of the biggest CRM tools out there. So I haven't like really bought a lot of SaaS companies historically. But the valuation on it, I think is reasonable. It's trading at the same price it was in almost like late 2022, right? And like, if you look at the revenue, like it's gone up since 2022, right? Like 29 billion to last year. Like, they've added over like around $15 billion of revenue since they were trading at prices that were relatively similar to where it's at now. So in another 5 years, I do think the stock price will be higher. Maybe I'll make a more in-depth video going more technically into like the revenue and maybe like projections on the stock. But I want to keep this one a high level, and I've already been talking for longer than I was expecting to talk. So that's where the portfolio is at. I think I'll leave it there. Nike has been an absolute deadbeat stock. I refuse to sell it. Okay, I refuse to sell Nike still. Maybe that's a bad decision. Would I confidently add a whole lot more money into the stock right now? I don't know. Would that money be better positioned if I sold my Nike position and put it into CRM? Again, maybe. But I like having exposure into the stock. I'm a Nike fan. I believe it's a massive global company, and my hypothesis for Nike essentially hasn't changed, right? So that's kind of where it's at. That's where the portfolio is at. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully you got some type of value out of that update. I do want to start making content again, and follow along for the journey. And hopefully you guys out there have been investing through this volatile time, because you don't get a lot of opportunities like this in the market, right? And this is when it is good to invest. Even though you might invest and see the money drop, I understand it's hard, but guys, just remember this. Remember this. Push through, stick to the plan, stay consistent, contribute to your accounts, and over the long term, if you buy quality stocks, it will your money will grow in the market. Sometimes people make it seem like it's a riskier game than it is, and not to say that it's not risky, but trust me, if I can do it, anybody else can do it. I am not nothing special. I'm just a dude that likes to, invest my money, and I've figured out a strategy that has seemingly been working for now. But that being said, I could still, be wrong with a lot of the bets that I have. I'm not naive to the fact that, things can change very quickly in the market. But that's where the account's at. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if there's anything that you guys would want to see from me in terms of content, or if there's any videos that you'd want me to create. I'm looking forward to kind of trying to get back in the game. I've had a bit more time, recently, and I really want to start making content again. So subscribe to the channel, like the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to this far into the video, you're an absolute fucking legend. And that is all I have to say. Peace.